Okay, guys, now we're going to move on to graphing. So usually you have the graphic organizers that kind of look like this. Now we're going to make the change to dealing with the graphic organizers that look like this. You're going to basically have two sections, one down here and one up here. So as we work, we can turn our paper, but we're specifically going to work on being able to graph. So we have some identification pieces with this. So first of all, I'm going to start by filling in the center. So we're going to talk about graphing lines. With linear equations. And we're going to call this part 1. Now, I am going to do something that's a little different. So I'm going to zoom out for a second so you can see this. I am actually going to take this and turn it a little bit so I can write on it. And then I'm going to keep kind of moving it around as we go. So here's my first one. So number 1, we're going to identify the slope and y-intercept and then we're going to graph. So the equation I have is y equals 1/3 x plus 4. So when we're doing this, it really is a comparison to this. So in this, I can see there's my m value, and there's my b. So that means that my slope is going to be m. So my slope is 1/3. So I'm going to help you out a little bit since we're graphing. The 1's going to be the rise part, and 3 is going to be the run. My y-intercept is my b value. That's going to be 4. That also means the point 0.04 is going to be on the graph. Now, when you start to graph, we always start with the y-intercept first. So on this graph that I have, now I'm going to go, zoom back out a little bit. I'm going to turn this now so I can actually graph on it. Now, because I've kind of turned it around, let me just tell you, I'm going to go through and label my x and y axis so I always know which direction it's going in. So if I start with this point first, this 0.4, 1, 2, 3, 4, there's my point. Now, I'm going to use a little bit of a highlighter so you can see this, but I'm going to rise up 1 and run 4. So hang on, I'm just going to make this a little smaller so it doesn't go crazy. So I'm going to go up 1 and over 3. Here's going to be my next point. And then I'm going to keep going because slope is constant. It's the same change. So up 1, over 3. Up 1 and over 3. So I'm able to get the y-intercept that I started with at 0.4. And then I was able to make 3 more points. Now, here's the good news. I know there have to be more points back here, right? That's the only way it's going to make a line. So what I'm going to do is work backwards. So I'm going to go down 1 and back 3 to make my next point. Down 1 and back 3. Down 1 and back 3. Okay, here's what I know about myself. I know I'm more likely to make a straight line the more points that I have. So now I'm going to go ahead and use a straight edge and go through those points. The line has to go across the whole grid. And I'm going to put arrows at the end. Okay, this is kind of how we're going to proceed with all of them. You actually have 4 examples that we're going to look at on this one. So if I zoom back out, this other piece that's up here, I'm going to actually take this and turn it. And now I'm going to go to start filling this one out. So actually, let's do this. I'm going to turn a little bit on a diagonal just so I can write here. So for number 2, it's going to be the same thing. I'm going to identify the slope and y-intercept. And then graph. And my equation this time is y equals negative 2x plus 5. Now remember we said we're always going to compare it to this. So that means here is my m value and here is my b. So my slope, which is m, is going to be negative 2. Now, just to make this easier, I'm going to put it over 1 so it's easier to graph. Rise and run. Now, if my rise is a negative number, that means instead of going up, it's going to go down, remember. My y-intercept is my b value, which in this case is 5. So 0, 5 is going to be my first point I'm going to start with. And that's what I'm going to begin graphing with. Okay, I'm just going to turn my paper so I can graph here. Okay, I'm going to put my x, y there. So 0, 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's my first point. Now my slope is negative 2 over 1. So it means I'm going to go down 2 and over 1. To make my next point. And I'm going to keep going. Down 2 over 1. Down 2 over 1. And I'm going to keep going. Oops. Okay, now remember, if I want more points, I know there are a few more back here, I can work backwards. So from the last point, I'm going to go up 2 and back 1. Just like retracing your steps when your mom says go back and figure out where you left your shoes or your computer, whatever it is. Retracing your steps lets you do that. Then we're going to make our straight line through those points. Okay, now we're going to flip over to the back. Let's do this one. I'm going to go ahead and write on it. This doesn't have all of them on there, but we'll do our best here. So this one for number 3, we're going to identify the slope and y-intercept. Then graph. And my equation is y equals negative 4/5 x plus 1. So on this one, if I compare this piece right here, oops, I think it's easier with the highlighter. This piece is my m, and this is my b. So for my slope, my m value is going to be negative 4 over 5 for my rise over run. My y-intercept is my b value, which is 1. So that's the point 0, 1. Again, we're going to start with this piece. Hope you're getting the hang of this. Okay, I'm going to turn my paper here just so I can graph. There's x and y. So 0, 1's right here. If my slope is negative 4 over 5, that means that it goes down 4 and then over 5. Down 4, over 5. Now, because that slope was kind of a bigger one, we don't have a lot of values that go across there. Now, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to work backwards now. So now I'm going to go up 4, back 5. Up 4, back 5. Okay, now, going to get our line made. Make sure it has arrows on the end. Now, we're going to go through, we got one more to graph, and then we're going to call it good for today. So here's my next one. I'm going to go to number 4. Same directions. Identify the slope and y-intercept. And then we're going to graph. So I have y equals x plus 3. Now, before I go too much further, I do have to assume that there's a 1 there. So if I compare it to my general equation, here's my m value and here's my b. So for my slope, is m, which is going to be 1. I'll put it over 1 so I have a fraction. So I have my rise over run. The y-intercept is my b value, which is positive 3. So 0, 3. Remember, this is what we start graphing. Okay, so I'm going to turn this here. X and y. 0, 3, right there. Now my slope is 1 over 1, so it's up 1 over 1 to get my next point. And I'm going to keep going. This is one where you're going to see it kind of, do you see how that looks like stairs almost? And then your point is basically going to get made like that. Now, I'm not saying you have to do 5 million points. If you have enough there that you feel like you can make your line, you have a straight edge, that's fine. I know for me, I need points all the way across the graph because that's just the way my head works, to make sure things are in the right spot. So if it helps you to have all those points, and keep doing it. Now, I'm not going to say you have to do the highlighting part. Again, that's just a technique that I use for myself to make sure I kind of get things lined up right. Okay, good luck, guys. We'll keep working on these later tomorrow on the next video.